You're listening to Zap Night's Zap Chats, a monthly video game discussion. Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Zap Chats. I'm your host Danny, and we got Kaylee. Kaylee, what's up?
Hi.
We're doing Discord this time. It's a little bit different, so if it sounds funny, that's probably what it is. But I did Discord for the last podcast episode, and it sounded okay. So
that's good.
That's what I'm hoping
probably
for.
Listen to that.
It's not bad. So yeah. So I guess we'll talk about what we've been playing lately. I just got done finishing Resident Evil 4. And that was the last podcast episode. That was on the 1st. So if you guys haven't listened to Resident Evil 4, check that out. It's pretty cool. I have all of the Let's Play videos on our second YouTube channel now. It's basically just like a place for all of the Let's Play games, all the Let's Play video clips. So it's Zap Night Plays right now. I might change it, but that's what it is right now. So if you're interested at all to see any of that, that's where you can go. Otherwise, the normal like Zap Night YouTube channel is all of our current like podcast videos and like thrift shop games and all that stuff is there. But Resident Evil 4, because I didn't sit down and physically record a video, I actually went through and snipped up all of my Let's Play videos of Resident Evil 4 and actually made like a little like clip reel that goes along with the conversation. So, you know, if it's cool, I would like some feedback on it. It seems like it's doing okay on YouTube as my videos go. Like it's got, I don't know, like 20 views, which is a little bit more than normal. So that's kind of nice. But
nice.
Yeah, no, it was cool. It was different. But what have you been playing, Kaylee?
Well, I need to be playing 7, so I'm going to tell you I've been playing 7.
But it's not true, is it?
No, I've been playing a lot of Minecraft.
Still?
Yeah, well, I don't know how to explain it. It's just, you know, when I play a game, I don't want my timer ticking, so, like, I'm usually dedicated to sitting and playing it. Where this, it's like, when I'm playing, I can get up, give the kid a snack, sit back down, turn it off for 2 minutes, turn it off for 20 minutes, turn it off for an hour, come back, and I don't know. I know.
Yeah, I see what you're talking about, but, yeah.
I know.
Well, I'm going to be honest, I haven't been playing a whole lot of Final Fantasy VII either. So I'm going to just say it now. It's probably going to be pushed back a month because I kind of just assumed that we were going to push it back a month anyway. So we're going to find a game to fill in for March. For March before April, so that hopefully April 1st, we will have the Final Fantasy VII podcast ready before the Final Fantasy VII remake gets released. So that's kind of my goal.
So last Zap Chats we did was just like a day before they pushed the release date back. Which was...
Yeah, and we sat down and talked about... We had this whole conversation about Final Fantasy VII, and then they pushed back the release date, and yeah. So yeah, in any case... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, it's fine. I was just going to say it's just too bad, because it would have been a great birthday present.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. Yeah, so... In any case, we're still playing Final Fantasy VII. I haven't played a whole lot of it. I'm still kind of tinkering with Resident Evil 4. But I've officially put Resident Evil 4 back on the shelf. So I'm going to be focusing on Final Fantasy VII. I think me and Lori are going to play a game for the next podcast episode. In whatever next month is, March. So March 1st will be something with me and Lori, and then April we will have Final Fantasy VII. So that's kind of the plan right now.
Yay!
So yeah. Let's go ahead and talk about I guess our kind of semi-topic for this Zap Chats. Today is actually Valentine's Day. So happy Valentine's Day, Kaylee. I hope you and your husband did some fun things.
Yes.
Me
Let's just say he did.
Me and Lori went out and played Pokemon. Like that was the highlight of our day.
Oh, that's nice.
Still playing Pokemon Go. I don't know.
I know we're old school now. Is that considered?
I don't
now?
even know
What
at
are
this
kids
point.
playing now?
Not Pokemon. It's
Harry
all
Potter Go.
it's all the old people now that are playing Pokemon Go.
Seriously, it is.
I know. Yes, I
Just
realize.
encounter an adult and you're like, Pokemon? Like, mm-hmm. Very well done.
Continue.
As you were.
So yeah, Valentine's Day. I thought it would be fun if we kind of talked about like
Love
in video games, like the characters falling in love with each other a little bit, or like, the love stories within the games that we've played. I kind of want to talk mainly about what we've played in our history, but like, I don't know. What do you think? How do you want to start? I'll let you start, Keely.
Well, let me think. Well, what would you say your favorite couple pairing is? Like, of two characters, either the Final Fantasy or whatever you feel most compelled to. What do you think is your favorite of couple, Danny?
I
is
don't
it Cloud
know.
and Barrett?
They are very cute together.
Did you go on a date with Barrett for the gold saucer?
I have in the past, but I haven't even made it there yet in my game. So yeah, I don't know yet. But I don't know. Like,
you haven't thought about that a whole lot.
The big thing is like my brain, when it comes to like storyline, my brain kind of typically goes to Final Fantasy games. And of the Final Fantasy games, none of them are like...
Oh, they were such a cute couple.
Right, yeah. There was nothing that was super compelling about any of the, like, love stories behind it. Like, it does feel like that some of them maybe recently... like Final Fantasy VI with Locke and his girlfriend, whatever her name was.
What was her name?
I think it was Celeste. Is that right?
I think you were talking about the girl that like dies.
Oh, like his actual like girlfriend or wife or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that went into a coma and then came back as a ghost and told him to move on and then like died.
Right. Yes. Yeah, and they're like preserving her body.
Yeah,
Some weird guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely a love story in itself. Like that little with Locke and that girl. And, his holding on to that as long as possible because it was his fault that she was in that scenario or whatever. But I mean, it's so minute. It's not like this big, love story. There was something. Maybe I'll have to pull up a list. We're so not prepared.
But by the way, her name was Rachel.
Oh, did you look it up?
Yeah, really quick. It is kind of the thing about Final Fantasy VI that I like is that, with the exception of Locke and Celeste, there really is not like a love story there, and that was okay. Like, every game doesn't need a love interest, or it's nice. I like it personally because I just like that kind of stuff. But Final Fantasy VI, in my opinion, did not need, like, I don't know if there really was a true main character of Final Fantasy VI, but in my mind, I thought it was supposed to be Terra, and she doesn't really have a love interest, and I like that.
No, she doesn't.
So
her love interest really is
herself.
I mean, like her story is really revolving around being, self-identifying, figuring out who you are. And like, that doesn't really fall under a love category. Man, I want to say that there was something that I played recently that had a really good, like, love scenario to it, but I guess I can't really think of what it was. I'm looking through my list and there really wasn't any. I really did like what is that game? Harvest Moon. I liked how Harvest Moon, like,
Oh,
it was
you could
a little
choose your
more
spouse.
personable because it was my story, you know?
Right. Yeah,
And
you get
so
to choose who you. Yeah, I mean it is. It's like a low key dating simulator, but farming simulator.
right, yeah, exactly. But
You know what would have.
you're putting in the work to, pursue somebody very specific and, tend to what their desires are, and then when they finally are like, I really like you, and it's like, oh, I know, because I've tried really hard.
We
So I
should
don't know,
have.
it's cute.
We should have done some dating simulators this month.
Oh man, that would be really funny.
Maybe next year.
Yeah, that's a good idea though.
Yeah, we'll have to put that down on the list.
I can't say that I don't think there's a whole lot of dating sims in the US. There might be a few that have been like translated, but it seems like the more popular ones didn't come here.
Yeah, I hear ya. Well, it seems like if manga has told me anything about the real world is that it does seem like the dating simulators are like more popular over there than maybe they say are here. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I watched a documentary on a guy who was addicted who actually was like marrying his
married?
DS because of the girl that was in the game.
Brandon really wants us to play tank dating simulator, something like that. You actually date a tank.
Oh my gosh.
It sounds ridiculous. That's what we needed to play. So, yeah, I don't know. I think I think my favorite like couple or like pairing that I like has always been Zidane and Dagger from 9.
Sure.
But I think that's just solely because I love the game. I don't know. I kind of would like to play this game coming up with like a fine tooth comb and really I want to judge it as objectively as possible, but
Right, yeah, to really look at it from, a critical point of view instead
right.
of this like nostalgic point of view. And that's kind of what I'm going through with 7 too, because in Final Fantasy 7 there's this dynamic between Cloud, Tifa, and Aerith, or Aerith. It's always going to be Aerith, so get over it now. But there's always this like dynamic between the three of them where like I think Tifa is in love with Cloud, but Cloud had fallen in love with Aerith. And then spoiler alert, Aerith dies, and then he's like, Cloud is left like heartbroken.
I guess I'll settle.
And so it's like, I don't know, it's funny to me because, from my point of view, the way that I've always interpreted the story of Final Fantasy VII is Cloud and Aerith were meant to be together, and then it didn't happen. And so it kind of leaves this hole. And Tifa's there and is trying to be someone for Cloud, and Cloud is like friend zoning her, like hardcore.
See, the way I interpreted it was that Aerith had this infatuation with Cloud because he was so much like Zack, which understandably, because if you know the story,
Right.
kind of taken on this Zack persona. It kind of makes sense, and it really kind of brings the traumatic story of the past together. And I feel like with Tifa, because when you see the flashbacks, she's really not interested in Cloud until he comes up around at the beginning of the game. Like in the past, she really doesn't seem too terribly interested in him. But like when they are trying to like piece together his memory and stuff and really walk through stuff, it's like she's kind of helping him just kind of find himself and really.
Yeah, I mean, obviously,
at the end, it seems more. Okay.
We'll talk more about this when we have our review. But I mean, going back to like Tifa's like the past, I think that Tifa was into Cloud from the beginning, and she was like super bummed that he was going off to join Soldier, and then like he came back and like he wasn't really interested in her really hardly at all.
When you hear him talking about the flashback, I mean, maybe she was, but when you hear him explaining the story of like when they were kids, he thinks or feels like she is more interested in friends than say him. And she said she was so surprised when he called her out to like talk about when he was joining Soldier and everything. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I mean, it does kind of. That's the nice thing about 7 is I feel like that while the love story is there, you can't deny that there's a love interest there, but like it's not so in your face and like important as some games kind of make it. Like the main character has their love interest and by the end they absolutely get together. Well, that's really not, it's more character development into that than just the love story itself.
Right. Yeah. I agree. But I mean, same can be said for, I think, 9. I mean, what I remember of 9, and, you know, again, I haven't played it in, maybe 5 years or so. Oh, wow. But, like, you know, Zidane is kind of this, like, player, you know, character.
He's a ladies' man.
And he's trying real hard to, like, be like that with her, and she's like, nah, I don't know, man. I don't know. It feels like she spends the whole game like kind of trying to push him away, and then maybe towards the end she's like, I mean, I guess if you're the best I can do.
She kind of starts coming around near the end, but I think the thing about 9 specifically is 9 is so heavily, I mean, with the exception of all the illusions of the other games, it's so heavily influenced by Shakespeare that it's kind of like you would expect there to be kind of this love thing going on because of how heavily, you know, I don't know. When I think of Shakespeare, I think of the romantic
epic love stories.
Yeah. So I feel like, I don't want to say 9 has the exception. I think that at times it is a little cliche, but I mean, a lot of stuff Shakespeare is cliche now because it's Shakespeare.
Right.
But I think the thing about 9 itself too was that there was a huge character development in both Zidane and Dagger, because Zidane has to figure out who he is throughout the game, and she has to fill this role as queen after her mother dies and throughout the game. Like she's trying to really establish herself, because I mean, we'll have to play the game. You'll see. They talk about her, and it's like, you know, you need to understand this. This is going to be war. You can't just be going around anywhere you want. You're a princess. People are dying.
Right.
That type of thing. I don't know. I think character development helps with love interest, but I think character development should always trump over these two characters need to be together. It's like Tara, for instance. Her character development was way more than, say, her getting together with Locke. Because at the beginning, I thought she was going to get together with Locke. But you know how the dialogue was.
I think her name was Celeste, right?
I think so. Or Celeste. I believe so.
We gotta look this up now.
I keep saying it. Well, I keep saying it, and I'm like, it sounds right. I am looking at it. Hold on. Is it Celeste? Yeah, it's Celeste.
Okay, so
Celeste Cherie?
I think that Locke and Celeste's like storyline is probably the best out of all of Final Fantasy VI. Like,
for 6, yeah.
Just it's so cute how Celeste, like, you know, there's this like this double story with her where maybe she's working against the group, maybe she's working with the group. But like overall, you see these little cute moments and her growing as an individual, and like, you know, her and Locke really kind of starting to click, and you know, getting to work together, and you know, it's I don't know, it's cute. I don't feel like I've seen that in any of the other Final Fantasy games. Like they kind of hint at it a little bit, but it's not quite like that.
I don't really remember a whole lot from Final Fantasy VIII. I know there was a love interest, but I don't remember much from 8.
Yeah, I don't either. And I think it's because, well, for me, it's because, well, it's been a while, but also when I played it through so fast that I didn't really absorb it very well. So I'm excited to play it again soonish. But yeah, I know that there is like a big love story between
The main, yeah,
Renoa
the two.
and Squall.
Squall. I did not play all of 13, and 13 is the only game I played of the series of that branched off. But
Yeah.
it seems like that Lightning didn't really have a love interest, did she? And I kind of liked that, where it was her sister and
Snow.
no that had,
Yeah.
and I kind of liked that. Like the main character doesn't need a love interest. I mean, it doesn't need. It's nice when it happens, and especially if it's natural, but they don't need it. And
I think to be honest, most of the games that we have doesn't center around a love story.
love.
Like most of them don't. I mean, look at even like Last Story. When we played that, it's
I don't
very
know.
much geared towards like a love story, but it's not like centered around it. Like it's more the like overall like I think the thing is a lot of these, especially RPGs, revolve around the world's coming to an end, we need to fix it, more than it is like I'm in love with you, I'm gonna do whatever it takes.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that. How do I explain this? The love story should not be a big part of the game. I mean, it can. I'm not saying that it shouldn't.
Right, yeah.
But I think for the Last Story, that was the case. That it was a big part of the story. I mean, they brought it up a couple times of if you do this, you can marry my daughter or something like that.
Oh
you know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah, I see what you mean.
Well,
and he was specifically, you know, she was I can't remember names now because it's been a while, but like the main female character, she was like heading towards to be wed with somebody else, and like all that, you know, crashes down, and I don't know. You're right. Like the love scenario is like a big key part to that game, but I think maybe that might be one of the only ones that we've played really that has been, you know, centered around it. Maybe some of the ones that Seth and Evan had played.
Final Fantasy. This is not the case. What we're talking about now is not the case. Sorry. I was thinking though about Final Fantasy 4 with Cecil and Kane.
Yep. Okay.
And Rosa. Their relationship is like in my mind, I think might be better than like my favorite pairing. I think that it wasn't the main focus, but you know, it was already established. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Between Cecil and Rosa.
Yeah. That they were already kind of.
They were already a couple, and
right.
You still see this like this love, I guess, and like they go on to be king and queen at the end. But I liked that it was already kind of established there. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But I guess you're right though. When I was thinking about the other games where I thought specifically about a love, I don't know. I know you haven't played Tales of Exilia, and I haven't played all of the Tales, so I'm sorry.
I haven't played any Tales games.
But the main characters in Exilia, there is a love interest, but interestingly, they don't get together at the end. And I think that's kind of a good. I mean, it's not what people want, I suppose, but I think that's kind of cool because it's a little different, I suppose. Like, it was a happy ending, but it wasn't the like happiest ending.
Sure. Well, look at like Final Fantasy 15. I mean, we're going way back for that, but I mean, you know,
seemed forced to me.
Well, it was because it was an arranged marriage,
right?
You know, so like part of that whole story, that love story was, you know, it was this arranged marriage that was supposed to unite these kingdoms together, and you know, they as a couple, even though they were spread across, you know, countries or whatever, you know, they had to find common ground. And I think by the end of it, Noctis did fall in love with her. So, like, you know, it was there. But again, you know, tragedy strikes and whatever. But, you know, it was still in the process of being established. And even though it was this arranged marriage, like, he was doing one, he was doing what needed to be done for his kingdom, but also like he really did genuinely fall in love with her towards the end.
Right, that's true.
And I liked that. Again, subtle, because the game really revolved around the brotherhood more than anything. The group, the bros, yeah. But there was that aspect to it.
Lately we've been me and some other people have been talking about Final Fantasy X, and one of the topics was if Titus and Yuna was one of the best couples ever or something. And first of all, I realized that I don't know much about that game than I thought I did. The second thing is I felt like that their love story was also forced.
I think it's similar to Final Fantasy IX, where like Titus is kind of this like player bro who wants to just like, oh, it's a pretty girl, so I'm gonna follow her, sort of thing. Like, I kind of feel that way. Like, really, I mean, when you again, it's been a while since I've played this game, but thinking back on the story, and we haven't played it for the podcast, and we will eventually. But thinking back on the story, like, Titus is really following Auron because Auron used to know his dad, and so that's the only reason why him and Yuna meet to begin with. But, like, when he first sees her, he's all like, whoa, who's that? It's, I don't know.
I think, to me, I feel like that his first interest was solely out of respect. At first, he didn't really know a whole lot, but at the beginning, because he was a dum-dum. But I feel like, though, that her interest in him was solely because of his dad. And in my opinion, I think Titus's character I think in the real world, I think it worked because that's what the developers wanted. But in the real world, I don't think Yuna would have put up with some of the stuff he did.
Oh yeah, no way. No way.
And I think that, like I said, they've got that common interest, but I mean, really, it seemed kind of forced. Like the developers were like, no, this is the love interest. And it was not
we're gonna
natural.
make it work.
Well, kind of. That's how I feel about it. I just feel like they had their like one love. It wasn't a love scene, but like their kissing scene or whatever under the water.
Oh, under the water, yeah.
But like when in my small tiny brain, to me, it was like there was a love interest.
Yeah. Well, I think it's something that's building up. Like, that scene that you're talking about, it like builds up over the course of the entire story, where they're like, they grow to know each other, and then they have like that awkward laugh scene where it's really just like Titus trying to say, hey, we're gonna make this work, we're gonna figure it out, I'm here for you. And then like when she realizes that he genuinely wants to help her, then she starts to fall in love with him. So, I don't know. It's something that definitely needs to be explored when we get there, right. And we're getting really close. Oh my gosh, we're going to be playing, I want to say maybe next year we'll be we'll be getting to Final Fantasy X.
We should at least be at Final Fantasy IX by the end of the year, if not the beginning.
Yeah, I'd like to hope so. We need to focus on Final Fantasy VII. I really need to get this game done with so we can move on.
I have a funny story.
All right, let's hear it.
This is going to be embarrassing because my husband... You might remember this. When I was little, I used to write in a diary.
Yep.
And at one point, my tiny little brain, I was like 7?
Right.
My tiny little brain wrote, I love Titus. in my little brain diary. And something like I wanted to marry him. And you, the snotty, mean little teenager you were, confronted me on it.
I don't remember this at all.
You and your one of your friends, you read my diary. And you brought it up to me. And the worst part, fam, was that I wrote all that stuff. That's the real tragedy here.
Well, I'm sorry I did that to you. That was what a horrible thing for your brother to do.
Apparently, that was my game crush back in the day. I was kind of segueing into if you had any game crushes
If
when
I
you
had
were
any game
younger.
crushes.
Now it's okay if you have one now.
Not really. I mean, even growing up, like, not really. Like, I thought some of the, like, Japanese, like, anime girls were cute, but it wasn't, like, this, like, crush, thing. But that was about the extent of it. Like, I was so into Final Fantasy VII, and, like, I really liked Aeris's character and design, and,
So you're Team Aries?
yeah, sure. But, like, I always put my focus on Cloud. Like, I wanted to be like Cloud because he was awesome. But that was about the extent of it. Like, I didn't really have any like
crushes.
even like celebrity crushes. Like, it just wasn't my thing.
I never really had a celebrity crush. We've talked a lot about Final Fantasy though. Do you recall any other games where you thought the love theme was
like outside of Final Fantasy?
Yeah.
Maybe like Artnelligo.
Oh yeah. That's different.
Yeah, because what's interesting about that game is you have the option to go with two different girls. Again, it's been like 3 years since we played and reviewed that, because it was the very first review we ever did for Zap Night.
I know.
It's not the best in quality, but we tell the story pretty well in that episode, and in any case, you have this interesting option where you can pick, which girl you want to pursue or partner with, and that drastically changes the game, like, story arc. And I don't know, from that aspect, it's really awesome and interesting, but, like, I don't really know if the characters really truly fall in love with each other towards the end, or if it's just this mutual, like, partnership.
The interesting thing is that in the games, at least the first one, they use these Raventails, which is the girls that you are dating.
Right.
They use them as a means of increasing power, but you have to dive into their consciousness. And that involves you getting closer to them. And the real question is, do they get closer with you? Because they don't act like they know really what's going on in their consciousness.
Yeah, like, basically what you're doing is you're going into their consciousness and their memories and fighting their demons.
Right.
You're fighting what they've struggled with in their past, and, like, didn't one of them, like, their parents died in a fire or something? Yeah. And, like, that's the kind of stuff that, like, they're really dealing with these issues, and your main character is going in and, like, helping them hash out this,
But isn't that so one-sided, though? Because they have no idea. They act like they're getting closer because that's how the game is designed. But, like, if the scenario was an actual thing, and I didn't know that you had seen everything inside my consciousness, it's like, and two, it wouldn't require. Could you just dive into my consciousness? Like, it wouldn't require to have a romantic partner. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that it's a mutual respect more than anything. Like you would maybe a psychiatrist, like, saying, okay, we're gonna sit down and talk about these major issues, and you're gonna help me deal with it. From that point of view, like, it doesn't have to be a love interest, but when you're talking about these intimate things, you have to be a really close person with that other person. You know what I mean?
You definitely have to be very vulnerable, knowing that they know.
Right, everything. But I mean, in the Artnellico world, like, you know that's how it works. Right. Like, you have to know that's what happens.
I see.
You may not know, because you go into, like, the dive machine, and you there's these hookups and crap that they have to do, but, like, you may not know how that's going to feel as personal, but you have to
Right.
understand that that's the concept.
It
They're going into your
it does
consciousness.
seem kind of like, though, that the game, correct me if I'm wrong, if you know I'm wrong, but it does seem like that they kind of explain that you won't, like, the group that one of the Raventails is part of, like, they choose their partner that they partner up with. So you've got to have, and I think it is kind of like when the main character goes to dive into one of them, they're like, are you sure? Like, this is, you know what I'm saying? Like, it is a personal thing. Like, they act like it is kind of personal.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And
So
remember, when you're playing, you start off like when you first start diving, you start off in like a level 1 sort of view. And in this level 1 world, the girl that you're diving with is like, who are you? What are you doing here? You don't
Right.
belong here. And then as you grow with the relationships
you
in the
go
dive world, then you unlock these areas of the mind and you deal with some of these bigger issues. Like, you may start off with, oh no, when I was a kid I tripped and fell and got embarrassed, and then like as you deal with those issues, then you go on to move on to, oh well, when my
Right.
mom died, this stuff happened. And you know what I'm trying to say. Like,
Yes,
that's not necessarily the exact scenarios, but like that's
Yes.
kind of how I interpret that world to kind of work. So like, as you get to know the characters within the dive world, even though you know the character is a person, like the main
Right.
person, but you kind of have to know the sub characters within the consciousness of that person
That's
too.
true.
I don't know.
Well,
It's
at
about
the end of
building
the
a
day-
relationship with everyone
true.
in the brain.
But at the end of the day, that was a very sexual game. There was
It's-
a lot of innuendos in that game.
Yeah, there was, but like if you take that out of it, like it's
Sure,
really
that
kind of
is- yeah.
sweet.
Well, I suppose love is not strictly in a relationship. You can have love for a parent, a sibling.
Oh yeah, sure.
I don't know. It is interesting. I really liked. I was thinking about Legend of Dragoon 2. You've played it, but more recently than I have. Absolutely.
Yeah, I
But-
played it for the podcast a couple years ago. I think it's episode 13.
I really liked that love interest,
Shauna
Shauna.
and Dart.
She's part of your party for a while, but then they actually replace her later.
Yeah, they replace her with
Miranda.
Miranda. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, there's definitely a love interest there, but even that, like, it doesn't feel, I don't know. It feels like an awkward thing. Like, Dart is way overprotective of Shauna, and it feels more like siblings than it does like,
I suppose you might be right. I haven't played that game in a long time. I guess in my mind, I always just think of it as, I don't want to say pure, but innocent also doesn't seem right. It's just this innocent. Maybe that's what it is. It's just this innocent love story that's not a big part of the game. It's just kind of subtly there. And that's what it really was in the game. Subtle. To me, anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong. It's been a while, like I said. You've played it recently, so
I think that like Final Fantasy VI really nailed. Going back to Final Fantasy VI, I think that they really nailed it with the way that it was Locke and Celeste. Just, it was like exactly what you said. It was subtle. It was a sub story. It wasn't like the main plot. It was just kind of there and developing on its own.
Oh, and it was
you
more
get
believable.
hints of it. Yeah, it was.
It
more
seemed
believable.
natural. The growth seemed natural, I suppose.
Right.
Suppose.
I mean, going back further in like the Final Fantasy series, like Final Fantasy 1 didn't have any character development. Final Fantasy 2 was more focused around like the four main or three main characters, I think. I can't remember now.
I don't remember much.
But they were like just those main characters, and they really weren't, there was no dynamic between them. Final Fantasy 3 was like the four like warriors of light again, and
Right.
it really, there wasn't much of a love story there. 4 we talked about. 5 with Bart's. I can't say I remember if
Creeley and what's his name? Her grandpa. What's his name? It starts with a G. You had a funny name for him. In any case, grandpa. I liked that story. That was her love for her grandpa and.
Well, I mean that can be said for a lot of the Final Fantasy stories. Actually, I mean, look at Final Fantasy. What was it? 4 maybe? Maybe it was. Gosh, I don't
6
know.
with Realm and
no, where Sid.
Grandpa?
No, with Sid, where Sid's granddaughter takes over for Sid. Remember? I think that might be 4. Carly,
oh, yeah.
I think her name was
Creeley,
yeah.
No, that's who I'm talking about with Galuf. She takes over.
Oh yeah.
When he dies.
Yeah. You're right. That's what I'm thinking of. I just for some reason I thought it was Sid, and I don't know why.
Yeah, I believe his name was Galuf.
Yeah, and that was really sad.
That was sweet. Yeah. That was I'm trying to think of like just innocent, like non-romantic, but like love,
like more family.
Well, look at 13 with Lightning and Sarah.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there was a lot going on there.
Or what's his name, Saz for his son?
Oh yeah, Saz. Yeah. I mean,
I liked that.
Yeah, it was subtle, but it was there. It was family, you know.
Well, family is important too.
Right.
I do think though, while I don't think that every game needs a love story, when you look at like the first two, like at least 2 Final Fantasies, it's mostly just war. Like,
yeah, I don't like that.
But yeah, there wasn't enough sustenance. Like sometimes it just gives an extra element to the storyline.
See, like,
it's just it doesn't need to be the main focus all the time.
From my point of view, the Final Fantasy games that I've played that are war based, like war to me is like this big overall scenario. Where when I play Final Fantasy, I want it to be about the individual characters, not the countries. You know what I mean? Like, you're pulling the microscope back too far. Like, I want to play and I want to learn about individual characters as the sole characters. Because I can portray myself on those characters. Where, like, when you're looking at it from, like, a war point of view, it's like this country versus that country or faction or whatever. And, you know, you're seeing it from this, like, the zoomed out view. Like, yeah, it kind of revolves around, like, individual characters that are leading the war or whatever. But, like, I don't know, it's not quite as... There's not as much character development, you know, individually.
Right. Absolutely. Which is, you know, the main focus of an RPG, and that's mainly what we focus on playing.
Well, what's funny is...
Well, not entirely, but...
We haven't... I know that you haven't played Type 0 yet. You really should.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that.
And we should play it for the podcast, because it's a really good game. But, like, it's kind of war-based, but the story really revolves around the Class 0 and, like, their role in the war and like their specific storyline. So it's like this nice mix between the two. Not that I really care for war stories as a whole, but like if you're gonna have a big like a big scenario, like war is an easy one to go off of. So I think a lot of stories use that as like a main story plot. But you know, I Type 0, there's not really any like love story in there, but we were talking about the war aspect, so I brought that up.
The like war game that I can even possibly think of that comes to mind as far as like with storyline and stuff is like, or storyline, because I don't want to exclude the like shooter games or anything, but Brandon played Valkyria Chronicle.
Sure.
It didn't seem very interesting to me because of the war aspect, and I think that's like the one thing holding me off. But when I saw like bits and pieces of the story, it did seem very interesting. So I think it definitely is important. I I don't know.
It's an interesting plot point if you use it right. I mean, from my point of view, I mean, some people like just the it's war, but
Right.
like from my point of view, I prefer the individual stories. But if you need to use the war as like a plot point, that's fine if
Well,
it's done right. Like, I mean, you
war.
can look at like Final Fantasy 12 even. I know you probably haven't played a whole lot of 12, but like, that's very war centric too, but
Well,
like
a
you
lot of them
still are
are.
focused on the individual characters.
I mean, you have to have conflict in any story. Like
Right. Yeah.
that's the whole point. And a lot of time, war is an easy one to go off of, like corrupt churches or some kind of corrupt society of some sort. But like the same thing with love. Like it's also just an extra like subject.
Yeah.
I guess it's
Yeah,
just a
no, you're right.
subject. Yeah.
Nice way to like bring it full circle, Kaylee. Elegant. Beautiful.
Thanks. I worked hard.
No, you're absolutely right. Like, it doesn't need to be a focal point, but like it could be, but it doesn't have to be. And
Well,
maybe the more subtle it is, the better. But then, what then is your focal point? And
Right.
does that determine if it's a good story or not? It's hard to say.
I think the thing right now is you got to remember your target audience, because when I was playing video games at the time, the love interest and all the love stories were very important. Now that I'm an adult, it's not as important to me. I like it now. So I guess it's just some of those love stories sometimes are so over prevalent, at least right now in this day and age. So it's nice when you get a little, just a subtle, we focus on something else. It doesn't have to just be love, not another rom-com or another, romance story or movie or
Yeah.
whatever, just in general.
I can't say, I still trying to really think about it. I can't say that there's been any video game that I've played ever that has been a solely like a love story. Like just straight up that's all it was. Like, every game it's always been, fighting a huge,
I hear you.
world ending scenario, and like that's your story. Where, I think I would like to play just like a real simple story that's just like these
Well, you
two
did.
characters.
You played Harvest Moon.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess that's but
The
that's
thing is-
different because that's not, there's no like written story script to it. It's just
But
like my involvement in this other fictional
is,
character's
though,
life.
We're talking about video games, and video games, you have to be playing something. And a lot of, at least the games that we're playing, it involves level grinding. So you're fighting monsters. I mean,
Yeah,
there's
that's
gotta
true.
be, you have fighting going on. So
That's
it
true.
can't be as simple as like a movie has it a little bit easier as far as that is concerned. Or video games, there kind of has to be more something else, because I think just love would make it too, I don't know, linear, maybe, I suppose. Like you've got like your dating sims and your simple games like Harvest Moon.
Yeah, and I guess that's part of it too. Like,
As far as our JRPGs or just RPGs in general, like
any
It's different.
any simulator, like
Sure.
The Sims is
Yeah.
they fall, you make them
You
fall
make
in love.
babies.
But I mean, even from that point of view, there's no like dedicated story behind it. But I guess if you wanted that, then you would do like a interactive novel, like a dating sim
Right.
novel game where, you're given basic choices and you get a different ending outcome
Right.
depending on the choices you make. So it's like, I don't know. There has to be a good balance, but you
Yeah.
also have to have a very real, reason to play the game.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. Because you can't just it would just be too hard to take a I was just about to say like Twilight, but I can kind of see Twilight being a video game. You fighting off vampires or werewolves or something.
Yeah.
But again, you've got fighting, and fighting is a big conflict that is a problem. Whereas like movies, your conflict can just be other people, not necessarily physically fighting, and where it's a little bit different with video games sometimes.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I don't know. I think it would be fun to try and challenge to find a game that kind of pursues that as a main plot point.
That would be very interesting.
I wonder if, like, I haven't played Catherine, but I've heard that might be kind of, I don't know.
That's true. I did not. I watched Brandon play Catherine. I didn't not in its entirety, but it was a puzzle game, and
sure.
I think that's a very good example actually, because his conflict is with two different women. And I mean, among other things, but
he had lots of problems, but
there was a lot of things going on there. But yes, it was a good main point of the story.
Yeah.
Just a little, not quite romantic, but
sure.
Yeah, that's a good point. I wonder if there's anything else like that out there.
Oh, I'm sure there is. I'm 100% positive, but I would love to hear feedback. So, guys, if you're listening to this, send us some ideas of games that would have, the love scenario being the main plot point, and mainly something that is interactive as far as gameplay and story. So, like, I don't want just, like, a graphic novel, like...
like the apps on your phone?
Yeah. I don't want just, like, a dating sim or, like, just a graphic novel, like, anime, What are those called?
I think they're like interactive graphic novels or something like that.
Yeah, okay. So, like, I don't want something like that where it's just, like, straight up just text and, you're just reading and choosing scenarios. I really would like a game that has good gameplay, no matter what the gameplay style is. Like, it can be RPG style, it can be puzzle games, it could be anything. But I want a game that is...
just focused on
the love scenario as the main focal plot point, but has really good gameplay and story development, like character development. So I don't know, if somebody knows of a game that kind of meets all those scenarios, I would love to hear about it, because I mean, it would be fun to play something that's a little bit different. Like, like we said, we haven't really played a game that runs on the love story being the focal point. It's been kind of like a subcategory.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I'm holding Catherine in that top position for now, I guess.
Yeah, I think you might be right, and I actually have that game. So if at some point we want to sit down and play that,
I don't know if I could.
You don't think so?
I don't know if I could play that game. I guess I could. I have Brandon there to help me because he did beat the game. So
sure.
Well, they came out with
a second one.
Yeah, and I think they released DLC for the first one. I think. So.
I don't know.
We should look into that. I don't know if it's beatable. It's definitely beatable within a month, I think. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not something that I'm saying we should pick up for, March's podcast episode, but maybe sometime in the future.
When we're playing our dating sims next February with Catherine.
Well, hopefully
February.
Hopefully someone emails us with a video game idea, because that would be really, really cool. Anything else you want to talk about, Kaylee, before we end it?
I think that was
all right.
Pretty good chat. Zap Chats.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Zap Chats. If you enjoyed it, please let us know. Also, I wanted to say that we will read all of our reviews from iTunes and pretty much anywhere else. If you want to let us know if you left it somewhere else for our podcast episode, just let us know. But yeah, I will read all of our iTunes reviews on Zap Chats. So if you want to leave us an iTunes review, that would be awesome, and then we'll read it live. We'll read it on the next podcast episode. So, guys, thank you all so much for listening, and we'll see you guys in the next one.